We're going to start with Aryk Moore, who is the Chief UX Designer from Boeing. And Aryk's going to be sharing his insights from Boeing's Customer Advisory Board and how he's been able to use them in order to build really great experiences.
Thanks, Sean. All right. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody had a good lunch. I'm super excited to kick off the UX track of the Open Mobile Summit. I'm here to talk a little bit about how we at Boeing, a 100-year-old company, have worked with our customers to engage them as part of our process. And the thing I often say at our work is, designing with our customers, not just for them. It's a philosophy I really believe in, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. So I'll start with a little anecdote. Boeing is a manufacturing company. I think that's what most people think of when they think of us as making airplanes. And a lot of the focus we spend is on leaning out that process. There's a lot of talk around lean. We read a lot of books on lean. And in the time as a creative at Boeing, it's a little challenging to apply those principles to what I do, but I was really surprised this year when I read a story that really resonated with the work that I'm doing. For those of you who don't know, there was a period of time where a lot of American automakers went to Japan to see how the Japanese were doing their production systems. And one of the things they noticed was that in America, at the end of the manufacturing, when they put the doors on, they would use a rubber mallet to tap it in to make sure that it fit properly. And when the Americans were confused about what was going on and why the Japanese didn't do that, they responded that we make sure it fits when we design it. And I think that's really important for all of us, especially those of us in UX, to think about how do we ensure the fit of our product with our end user? And we should be really doing that at the time when we design it. So Boeing, right, we make airplanes. We make a lot of airplanes. We've made, I think it's over 40,000 airplanes with around 10,000 plus of them still in service around the world. To support those airplanes, though, we have a lot of software. We have a lot of customers. We have both internal and external customers. So this is our current count as of October, just short of 1,800 customers. The vast majority of those are airlines around the world. And with those customers, we have over 60,000 users. So imagine being a UX designer trying to design for 60,000 plus people and create competitive and industry-leading software. In my particular area, I focus a lot on maintenance data. That's the thing that we're working on right now. We're working on taking multiple softwares that deliver maintenance data and merging into a single modern solution. Just in October alone, we transferred almost 20 million megabytes of just maintenance data, which is quite a lot if you think of it. It's just text data, right, for the most part. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. What people may not know is that even though we're known mostly for airplanes, we do use a lot of the processes and methodologies and frameworks that probably many of the people's companies in this room use. Scaled Agile Framework, Pragmatic Marketing, Lean Startup, and Design Thinking. When we're building our software, we're using stuff that everybody is probably using as well, or at least as considered. What I do. In the team that I lead, I was really tasked with trying to represent a bunch of different users, right? 60,000 plus users. How do I do that and ensure that the products I'm building really resonate in the market? And the way that we wanted to do that is with the Customer Advisory Board. Now, I can't name any names, so I just put dots here, right? This is our Customer Advisory Board. All across the world, as far away as Australia, New Zealand, even here in the US, we have airlines who are representing a lot of our market, and they're the ones that we're using to essentially represent those 60,000 users. So I want to talk a little bit about how we built that Customer Advisory Board. So I think this is one of the most important parts is making sure that you don't just go grab 18 different customers, right? You have to kind of think about it strategically, and so I thought, why not use an airplane, the 747? Everybody loves the 747. So I saw it as 4 real key ways of building a Customer Advisory Board. The first one was you really want, if you're going to be doing something new and exciting, you're going to try new things, you really want early adopters of technology. The next thing you need, and this is, it's the widest part, it's the most important part, is you want customers and end users who are willing and enthusiastic about what you're doing. They really have to believe in what you're doing to keep that dedication up. And I'll talk a little bit about how we carry that through as we work with our customers. The last thing is you really want industry representation. So for us, that means getting narrow body, wide body, mixed fleet, regional, domestic, all those different types of airlines, cargo carriers. You really want your industry represented in your Customer Advisory Board as well. The other thing here is you really don't want to forget about your internal users. So if you're one of those companies that have a huge internal user set, make sure they're represented as well, because if they're going to be using the tools you're developing, you really want to make sure that they have a voice in what's being said there. Otherwise, it's not going to go as well as you'd hope. And the last thing is strategic initiatives, right? Every company has them. We all have sales directors and leaders and executives and CEOs who have a specific goal in mind with the products that are being built. And so we really want to make sure we keep track of that too. And you may include a customer in your customer advisory board who is there really because they're a token customer. I won't say that we have that or don't have that, but they provide good insight and it helps make sure that your product is successful in the market. All right, so this is my friend Knut. He's from Sweden. This is a marginally staged photo at a workshop that I did. I wanted to talk a little bit about the culture shift that has to happen to support this, because I'm not going to stand up here and pretend that it's easy. It takes a lot to get both your internal and external users, accustomed to the idea of, embracing the idea of a customer advisory board. So here's some of the things I learned from it. You have to encourage the culture shift. So in every possible opportunity, really, working with people to let them know that, hey, this process we're going through is a process for a reason. That it's going to take time. So, people think that it wouldn't be in my best interest to assume that overnight everybody's going to be on board with me coming and saying, hey, the customers want this thing, right? Transparency. This is a huge part of this. We're super transparent. We send out all of our notes. We share all of our metrics with everybody, both internally as well as with our customer advisors. And if you're curious, they signed an NDA, so we keep it all kind of under wraps. But transparency really helps, because what that does is it gives people trust. And I'll share a little bit later what customers think about our trust. And then you want to build your processes accordingly. So, you can't just come up with this idea and kind of throw it out there. We had to have underlying processes. Our development processes had to support the design processes we're doing. So as you look across, if you're interested in doing a customer advisory board, make sure that all of the different areas are also supporting that. All right, so how do we actually do this, right? It's one thing to have 18 customers, and what do we actually do? This is our cadence for this year. This is what we've done. So every single month we send a newsletter, and I'm going to kind of go into detail on what all of these are. So every month we send a newsletter at the beginning of the month. We do twice yearly workshops, one in Seattle where I'm based out of, and then one hosted by our customers. And then we also do webinars approximately quarterly. This year, because we have a workshop coming up in February, we're actually doing 2 before the end of the year. So this is our cadence, and you can kind of see as a UX person, right, a lot of my job is researching what customers think and then evaluating that. So I also have that on the cadence as well, that you want to make sure that you're getting a lot of input in, that you give yourself the time, and you build that in to get that evaluation done so that you can give the feedback back at the next touch point, whether it's a workshop or a webinar. So for me, these are the 3 things that we do. Again, may not be for everybody, but this is kind of our approach for each of these things. So in our newsletters, again, monthly, we always share our program status. Our first page is a leadership message, whether it's from our chief product manager or from our actual leadership team. And we're, again, very transparent. We share our accomplishments. We share any challenges we have. We review new designs. So this is a place where we can say, hey, we talked at a workshop about a specific component. Here's an example of that component now that it's actually gone beyond the wireframe stage. And then, of course, we're UX testers, right? So we do A/B testing and surveys. So here we'll include, maybe got some feedback. We've been exploring, for example, faceted filtering and navigation, but we weren't really sure how to handle that. So we'll actually just put A, B, or C testing in there and ask our customers to give us input. And we get really good response, again, because they're expecting it and watching for it. And we do a team highlight. So a lot of this, it involves really bringing those customer advisors into the fold. So I always say that as far as I'm concerned, our customer advisors are just an extension of our team. It doesn't matter that I work at Boeing and they work at an airline. We're just all one big team, and that's how you get pictures like the picture with me and Knut. This may not always apply for everybody, I get it, but one of the ways we do that is a team highlight. So I reach out to a customer and ask them if they'd like to be featured in our newsletter. We have a preset, what do you do professionally? What do you do in your spare time? Toss a picture on there, and everybody gets to know everybody. And it's a really good opportunity to include them in the project. For our webinars, they're really, like I said, bridging the gap between the workshops. So there we share the program status as well, but because it's live actual webinars, we also can review new designs. We can review new designs and actually demo the working code, right? You can't do that on a newsletter. And then we do a project look ahead. So we look towards, so when we have the one in December, we're going to talk about what we're planning for February. We can also talk about anything coming up, any challenges as well. And then our actual workshops. Our workshops are a place where we can get together and share ideas. We can plan, design, test, and share all the things you would expect from working directly with your end users. But we can also align them strategically, right? My UX team is not a particularly large UX team, but we can make sure that if we have a specific function that somebody else in Boeing is interested in, that we can get them aligned with that, with the group and with the workshop. But we can also align it with our product. So a lot of the products I'm working on right now, they're multifaceted, kind of, think of like the old sort of tabbed internet suite of tools. And so as we look to replace specific functionality, we can align the workshop ahead of that to make sure that we get the informed decision with regard to the design. Invite everybody, right? This is actually one of the things on the culture change that was really hard for everybody to understand. I'm a big fan of inviting everybody. I think it actually makes the workshop a better place. And the example I often use is, as a UX designer, I might ask a specific follow-up question to some input I've gotten. But as a developer, they're probably going to ask different follow-up questions. And so by having that diverse crowd there, you're going to get a lot better information. And then have fun, right? It's really important if people are flying from as far away as New Zealand that they come and have a good time. That you don't just bore them with a week-long workshop of droning on about processes and Post-it notes on a wall. So we really try to have fun. We make sure we do a social event. We engage everybody. We bring the team. It's a really great time. So what we're getting out of this is customers who really believe in what we're doing. But we're also getting, I think, market differentiation. So here are a couple quotes from customers. The first one, again, no names. Customer, I had asked in one of our original workshops, what they think that we're doing that differentiates us from our competitors. And he stated very clearly that none of the competitors are doing what we're doing, which is asking for input. And I think that's a big thing, and this quote has gone very far in my team at Boeing. They see that as something we really want to strive to do. But the other one is sort of getting customers' trust and having them be involved with you. So customers acknowledging that Boeing is listening and that by doing this, we're going in the right direction. I think that, that winning that trust is how you get customers dedicated to your product, and it's how you ultimately build a better product. So it's one thing to say that. We actually have some metrics. So I'll explain this chart a little bit. Every time we do a workshop, so those are our recent-ish workshops, we polled them. So at the 45% level of approval rating was when we unveiled the whole new design, right? And people were like, it's something new. But we've asked the same questions over time, and you can see that it's, people are liking the direction we're going because they have a direct voice in it. They're seeing their input being put into design. So this is what we're seeing, but I want to talk a little bit about what methodology we're doing to gain those metrics. So comparing apples to apples. And this is probably for, if you're into analytics and these type of things, is probably redundant, but making sure that we ask like questions over time so that we can really compare, at the beginning, the same question as the last workshop, and getting qualitative and quantitative data. I'm not a huge fan of, hey, we showed you this new feature, what do you like it, 1 through 5? I think that doesn't always give a lot of really good input. And so I think here it's really good to, get specific feedback. And by doing that, we get actionable feedback, which I think is great. And share often. Like I said earlier, we share these metrics. We share all of our feedback with our customers, and they really appreciate it. And again, it builds that trust. So let's look again at, that's kind of the methodology we go through. Let's talk a little bit about what we're getting out of that. So here's our customer advisory board. There we are in Seattle. We have a lot of people traveling to see us. But I think we can look at this in a different perspective because I think it's fun to look at things like that. The Earth to the moon, right? The Earth to the moon is 238,000 miles. This is actually the distance that customers have traveled to see our workshops and participate. If you're like me, there's some math help. So after our next workshop in February, we will have completed a round trip, which I think is really awesome. What I think is more awesome about that is that we haven't paid for any of it. Boeing hasn't paid for a single mile, right? Every customer is flying on their own expense. And what that really is no money for Boeing. So if you're thinking of ways to save money when you're developing new products, if you can get the same sort of commitment, you can actually save money by building products that are engaging customers in a way to build your product. All right, so what do we think customers want? This is what we've used as a visual. Because our product, again, has lots of different tools as part of it, this is kind of what we went into it thinking is customers want this, one-size-fits-all application that has all these different tools. And what it turns out customers actually want is a single tool. A very, very focused, slightly larger blade, very sharp. And for us, this is actually really great. And for any of us who have, to balance the budget at the end of the year, by doing this, we actually save money because we can focus our development costs. We can get quicker to the market, which I think is really great. And we also are giving customers what they actually want by actually engaging them and getting their input. So in summary, I wanted to save a little time for questions, so I'll kind of go through this. Design with your customers, not for your customers. Make sure that the work you're doing fits with your design when you design it. And collaboration will build trust. So by collaborating with your customers, they are going to trust you more. They're going to be more inclined to do that. Challenge your assumptions. So again, with the Swiss Army knife thing, if we hadn't asked that, we might have continued doing things that weren't making our customers exactly happy. And have fun. I think it's important to do that. I think all of our jobs are very busy, and this is a really good way to have an outlet. All right, that is all I had to say. Thank you.